welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso on SABC3. We are talking movies with JP Sebastian, the ones releasing in the new year. In fact, on the 1st of January. JP Sebastian.
Can you believe it?
I know. I'm quite excited. So we're going to go to like a classic, Charles Dickens classic novel.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So the first one we're reviewing is The Personal History of David Copperfield.
Not, in fact, A Christmas Carol, which is what everyone probably would have thought. But The Personal History of David Copperfield was to Charles Dickens, his favorite book, and what he referred to as his favorite child. You know, apparently every parent has a favorite child, mom, dad. I'd like to know.
They will never admit it. The parents will never admit it, but you pick it up.
So maybe this deals with some of that as well. Is that the story is very much an observation of life around this character, David Copperfield, who is not, in fact, a silk-donning magician, as we might have thought. Dev Patel at the front. Dev Patel can do whatever he likes at this point. I'm super excited about The Green Knight coming out next year. It looks good, but this looks so good as well. Most importantly of all, I think, is directed and written by Armando Iannucci. Armando Iannucci, do you know Veep? With Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the TV show.
No.
Zoe, you would snort laugh. And I know you do. We're revealing this on South African TV. She does. And you would, like, drastically at that show. It's one of the funniest ever. Armando Iannucci is so good at satire, is so good at parody of, well, in these shows that he usually does, political systems and whatever. So he's the perfect pair for Charles Dickens, who was a satirist. And this guy who wants to cast an eye on society. However, hey, Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton's one of my favorite human beings as well. We are so blessed to have a Hugh Laurie House. Of course, you know Hugh Laurie.
I love House. I loved it. He is hilarious.
Yeah, he is very good, and appears in this too. David Copperfield is a coming-of-age story, what they refer to in literature as a Bildungsroman, which is the story of a man's journey, usually a man. And in this case, it's from his birth all the way up to his mature age, at which point he's a writer and retelling the story from his perspective. He narrates the thing throughout. And it's the ups and downs of life. It's him starting in dire poverty, and this is great about Charles Dickens. Like, every modern movie is like, JP wanted to be a writer, but he had writer's block. It's like, Charles Dickens is like, JP wanted to be a writer and lived in driving poverty in industrial England.
You know what? It's that started from the bottom, now I'm here storyline, because a lot of people can relate to it.
Perhaps,
It's your journey, and it's one of those where you can't allow your circumstances to dictate where you're going to go.
I think Dickens, as a Marxist, would think otherwise. But no, I mean, that you take from it what you will is partly the point as well. And so he finds his life from poverty into luxury and then back down into difficulty again. And so as well as being this sort of almost an autobiography of himself, Charles Dickens, and as well as an autobiography of David Copperfield, it's also a glance on society as a whole and how people try to fake it till they make it, which is horse people.
I think it will definitely encourage people to go read the novel before seeing it.
And it's got to be hilarious too.
Yes, let's move on to The Nest. Jude Law.
Where's he been?
He's been MIA.
Which is probably a good thing. I suppose he was in Captain Marvel. I was just about to say he escaped the news of these superhero movies, but apparently not. Everyone has to do one. I'm up for one probably at some point too. You probably have to play a superhero at some point.
I saw critics are saying Jude Law at his best.
Yeah, which I've not seen it myself, but I do love the dude, and I wish that we could see him more often. I suppose every South African watched Contagion recently, where he was the creep who was spreading the lies about that virus. And so, yeah, maybe good lessons from Jude Law there, but not good lessons here. The Nest is one of these stories about deceits and deceptions between husband and wife. He constantly tries to reassure her everything's okay with the bank. However, he whisks them away to England and takes them to another life and another career opportunity, apparently.
Okay.
She starts noticing, wait, the bank's looking a bit dry. Husband, what are you doing while you're telling me to build a horse farm, to live my dream, inverted commas, and you're dragging us down slowly? So, again, the story about fake it till you make it, probably pretty similar to David Copperfield and the stupidness that people do to each other. Why do people communicate in relationships? Maybe we'll learn from The Nest. I'm not a married man. I'll probably figure out just how hard it is to tell your wife the truth when stuff is going sideways.
I think it also comes down to an ego, you know, the man's the protector, the provider in some relationships.
Rubbish, it's the 21st century.
I know.
Hopefully The Nest breaks that lie too.
Well, this movie's not played out in our time, so that's the forgiveness. The last movie, Dreamland.
Dreamland is the lady who you were super excited to talk about, Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie, she's in it.
Anything that like tickles your fancy, or just generally you love Margot Robbie? I, Tonya, you saw the one where she was a
I saw it, loved it, and you mentioned it, but she's one of those versatile actresses.
Oh, yeah.
She can play any role, from being glammed up and all pretty in Wolf of Wall Street to I, Tonya, and now in Dreamland also taking on a little bit more of
Birds
a...
of Prey, Suicide Squad.
Interesting
She's
role.
next also going to be doing something very interesting, a remake of Tank Girl. People from the 90s might remember that. It's a bit of a Mad Max, but a female lead. Should be super exciting having her in there. However, Dreamland is probably a similar sort of story in a way. It is America during the Great Depression, when all of them were told, go west, live your dream, fake it till you make it. Actually, again, all these movies have that theme in common. And then the Dust Bowl happened, and farmers had to scrounge for cash and desperately try and live off a totally drought-ridden land. Margot Robbie is a bank robber on the run. And she has murdered, sent to heaven 5 people, is what one person says in the trailer at some point. Comes across
It
this
looks
dude
amazing when she does it.
who is torn between turning her in for the bounty or this new burgeoning love that he has for this outlaw. So Bonnie and Clyde, Thelma and Louise, etc., etc. These outlaws on the run type stories, trying to live their dream, but love tears them apart, and also the law. People love these kinds of things.
It's an adventure.
Queen and Simile recently, I suppose, as well. The Jay-Z song. We
There
can't
we
get enough
go.
of this.
Well, JP,
Dreamland.
thank you for joining us. The movie will be hitting theatres on the 1st of January, and I forgot to mention that The Nest is actually coming out on the 24th of December. So if you are
Juno.
looking at movie options for the festive season, now you have them.
Mask, sanitize, social distancing, please.